Well, there are clearly two key components of the war effort as we move forward. First of all, to continue to dismantle and destroy Hamas wherever they are. And indeed, as we revealed last week, in their efforts to hold hostages in our very successful rescue operation, there are hostages being held in Rafah. So for us to dismantle Hamas's battalions that are operating in Rafah, for us to try and continue our war effort, we need to continue to pursue Hamas wherever they are hiding, and we understand that they are hiding in Rafah. The second component of that is indeed relates to the hostages. There are hostages being held in Rafah, clearly, as we demonstrated in the rescue operation last week. So if we want to bring the hostages home, that is another reason to operate in the Rafah area. You rightly pointed out, David, that there is an extensive civilian population congregated in the south, in the area of Rafah. And as we've been clear throughout the course of this war, our war effort is not against the people of Gaza, but against Hamas. So we will devise and create a plan to evacuate people once more, to get them out of harm's way in order to enable us to continue our operations on one hand, but secure the safe evacuation of people on the other hand. We are facing an unprecedented battleground, a battleground set up by Hamas intentionally in the civilian arena. They have weaponized the civilians of Gaza to try and prevent us from hunting them down and seeking them out. Our role is to distinguish between the civilians. Our role is to distinguish between those civilians and to conduct our attacks against Hamas in that manner. This is the challenge we are facing. This is the reality of the battleground. It has been since the 7th of October, precisely how they are conducting themselves. And from our perspective, of course, the civilian element, the human element, the activities that Hamas have conducted in order to prevent our operations can't be given to Hamas, because that would be surrendering to them. That's not an opportunity from our perspective. They can't be given a free pass to conduct their attacks. They can't be given a free pass to hold the hostages. And they can't be given a free pass to continue to pose a threat to Israel anymore. And that is the reason why Rafah is a distinct possibility. The time frame is, it's pressing. I would definitely say that. We've not set out, the military has not set out a specific time or date. But yes, Hamas have to know that they have not got the luxury of time on their hands to hope that we will not come. They are trying to use, as they have done with hospitals, as they have done with mosques, as they have done with schools. They are utilizing all of these capabilities to try and prevent Israel from operating, and they support it with a supporting effort by rallying international sentiment. This is precisely what we're doing. And when the world accepts the notion that Israel should not pursue Hamas, they are potentially siding with the atrocities of Hamas. Now, we as civilized people, as decent people, can't accept Hamas to dictate these terms. We have to hold them to account. We have to seek out justice for the victims. And indeed, the people of Gaza are part of the reality that Hamas have dictated as their battleground. We will evacuate. We will continue our operations. We need to be able to operate in a way that is helps us achieve our goals, but differentiates and distinguishes between the civilian population and the Hamas terrorists.
Clearly, you've rescued 2 hostages in Rafah, and you think there are more hostages being kept there. And then yesterday, we saw the footage of Kfir Bibas, the youngest hostage. It's unclear right now where the baby is and his mother and his other sibling. What is your current view on the intelligence around that? And what do you think that footage is telling us?
the footage is from the very day that they were abducted. We are all very familiar of the visual, very, very devastating visuals of them being abducted from their house. And what we revealed yesterday to the public after speaking to the Bibas family is that Shiri, Kfir, and Ariel were all alive in Gaza on the 7th of October. We are concerned for their welfare, as we are concerned for the other hostages, the 131 hostages that are being held in the Gaza Strip by Hamas. I think what it goes to show is that there was... It's very hard to say, actually. How can you not be compassionate to such a beautiful ginger baby? And there was no compassion on the 7th of October. It was the opening of the most devastating chapter in the history of the State of Israel. And we are determined to bring home the hostages, every last one of them. But if we've learned anything, is that the enemy have absolutely no regard for human life. They have no regard for babies. They have no regard for women. And these videos that we found in the closed-circuit television systems of Hamas just go to show and exemplify precisely what we've been saying over the last 4 months. Babies, women, children, elderly, they have no regard for human life. They just don't care.
In terms of the leaders of these terrorists, in a specific case of Sinwar, reports today that there's fears that there's a chance that he could have fled to Egypt. How likely do you think that is? And what will the IDF do to track him and the other leaders down?
Sinwar is the mastermind of the massacre. He's the man that financed it, developed and built the forces, and gave the green light for the 7th of October. Justice will be served when he is brought to justice, when he is killed or taken out or caught. I have no intelligence to suggest that he's not in the Gaza Strip currently. Of course, we need to be prepared for that option and that opportunity. He's a coward. He has been hiding now for 4 months beneath ground. We released a video last week of him roaming around the tunnels with his family, like the fugitive he is and will continue to be. Our role is to seek out those that perpetrated the attack, those that orchestrated the attack, and him as a specific individual that instructed to launch a war on Israel. Sinwar is and has been called a dead man walking. I think that is the very essence of Sinwar's role currently in this war. He is and will be held accountable. What
is going to be the situation in terms of the Temple Mount and any potential curbs there? How concerned are you that could be a flashpoint?
The IDF has and will reflect its position on the subject of how to manage it to the government and to the political echelon. The government will make its decisions and instruct the IDF to act accordingly. We will be prepared for any eventuality and to implement the government's instructions. This is the current situation. Of course, Ramadan, there are always tensions around the Ramadan period. From our perspective, the military needs to be prepared for any eventuality, and that is precisely what we will be doing.
And in terms of Gaza itself, are you evacuating any further areas?
This morning we are conducting smaller operations in the area of Zaytun. Indeed, we've called on evacuation of specific neighborhoods in the northern Gaza Strip in order to conduct those operations. The operations are underway, and I think it is a result of intelligence-based operations that we expect to develop as the war effort continues. Hamas will be trying to regroup, trying to re-establish their presence in different locations throughout the Gaza Strip. As they try to do so, they will be sought out and engaged with. We've had, throughout the course of this war, specifically in the north, a good success rate of dismantling, destroying their battalions. We've dismantled some 12 battalions in the northern Gaza Strip. those battalions, when I say dismantled, it means we've negated around 60% of their operational capabilities, which means, on the other hand, that there are still 40% in each of those battalions, potentially, that could try and regroup and reorganize. So there are still terrorists in the north. There are still terrorist elements, Hamas elements, that need to be engaged. And when we conduct operations like we are this morning in the area of Zaytun, it is to fulfill our mission to dismantle and destroy Hamas's capabilities and negate those terrorist entities as a terrorist entity in the north, as well as in other areas throughout the Gaza Strip. This is, I think, when the IDF said that 2024 is going to be a year of war and combat, it was to address the developing battleground as we see throughout the year. Now, we're only in February, but there's definitely the potential for extended war in the Gaza Strip against Hamas, because they've been preparing for this war for 16 years. So it's not going to go away. There's no quick fix. And from our perspective, we're in it for the long run.
Where are you with the destruction of tunnels and that huge tunnel network of terror?
So the tunnels themselves are a tool for Hamas's terrorist activities. So the idea, what we are focusing on, is the strategic capabilities within the tunnels, whether it's command and control, intelligence, manufacturing of weapons and rockets, key junctions that help them maintain flexibility in movement and operations. What we are focusing on is actually negating those strategic components. And I would say, as we press forward, whether it's in the area of Khan Yunis or in the areas of the central Gaza Strip in Deir el-Balah, or in the north, Palestine Square, beneath the Shifa Hospital, Rantisi Hospital, these are the types of locations that we're actually focusing on. Not necessarily, there's no strategic goal to destroy the entire tunnel system, but just to make sure that these tunnels can't be used as a strategic component of their offensive against us. That is what we are focusing on. That is how we are successfully, when we're able to destroy a battalion, it's because we're negating the strategic capability and the flexibility of maneuvering beneath ground. And this is what I would say is the focus is on the tunnel system. Strategic capabilities, manufacturing capabilities, key junctions that gives them flexibility to operate as they see relatively free. We are destroying and dismantling key capabilities, and alongside tactical operational tools that they have utilized throughout the war, especially in the north, but also in Khan Yunis and elsewhere.
As is always the case when Israel has one eye on one front, there's potential for another one to keep you occupied. What is happening on the Lebanon border right now, and how much of a concern is it?
So yesterday we identified a drone that infiltrated Israel in the northern Israel and landed in northern Israel. And in response, we retaliated immediately at key components of Hezbollah's aerial offensive capabilities towards us. I think it's a very, very clear message. You don't want to pursue this. We will be defensive in our efforts, but very proactive to thwart, prevent, and preempt Hezbollah's aggression against us. It's a reality today that we still have some 100,000 people that have been evacuated from the border area. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable for Israel. The people need to be able to go home, but they need to be able to go home in security. We are determined to create that security. It can be through diplomacy, but it can also be done through military action.
The world is asking, or some members of the international community are asking, Israel to pause a major offensive in that city. What is your message if you're trying to convince the world of just how vital it is to meet Hamas where they are hiding?
If we don't pursue Hamas where they are hiding, we are effectively surrendering to their diabolical actions, and not only actions, their intentions to repeat the 7th of October. We cannot let this be the new norm of terrorism. We cannot permit a terrorist organization to hold the population of Gaza hostage, 134 Israelis hostage, the people of southern Israel hostage. We cannot permit this to be the new norm of terrorism here or anywhere. Terrorists that hide behind civilians need to know that they do not have protection, that they will be pursued, they will be hunted down, and we will serve justice.